It is without question that Johannes Vermeer is one of the most celebrated and prominent figures in the art historical community. His paintings were created with exactitude and precision, and many regard him as one of the most famous artists in history. An artist with such remarkable talent and skill is worthy of scholarly research to better acquaint the world with the man behind the paintings. Vermeer had a haunting family history involving domestic abuse and unhealthy relationships with his family, which had a direct impact on his creative desire and manifested in his interior genre scenes. With the assistance of analytical methods such as iconology, the underlying message and persona behind Vermeer's artworks unravel and leave the world with a better understanding regarding the artist's connection between his creativity and his abusive family background. Many scholars have researched the lives and work of Johannes Vermeer and have analyzed his paintings to decipher specific painting styles, intentional composition and object placement, and reoccurring themes throughout his interior genre. Scholars such as Timothy Brooke and Philip Steedman have discussed the works of Vermeer and how his paintings were executed with realistic brushstrokes and lighting aids such as the camera obscura. A.N. Hodge and Susie Hodge are scholars that examine specific paintings and symbols behind the meaning of paintings such as Girl with a Pearl Earring and Young Woman with a Water Pitcher. Another scholar, Benjamin Binstock, performed a thorough and enlightening research evaluation on the history of Vermeer, which included a more detailed and extensive examination of Vermeer's biography that has rarely been considered by scholarly predecessors and includes a chronological order of Vermeer's paintings to show the gradual and conceptual development of the artist's work. J.M. Montius is also a scholar who explored Vermeer's family dynamics by researching official reports and ledgers from the Dutch Golden Age. While very little is known about Vermeer's life, historians have collected enough information to develop a rough biography of the famous Dutch painter and assist in the evaluation of what influenced his paintings. The artist lived from 1632 to 1675 in Delft during the height of the Dutch Golden Age. Approximately 36 paintings have been confirmed as Johannes Vermeer's. Although the artist had several patrons, Vermeer went practically overlooked until the French critic rediscovered him in the 1860s. Little is known about Vermeer's early childhood. However, it is believed that Vermeer may have been an apprentice to one of two respected Delft artists, Leonhard Bremer and Karel Fabritius, which would explain how at age 21 Vermeer was admitted into the Guild of St. Luke, since the requirements to become a member was training with an approved master for 6 years. Vermeer's earliest works revolved around historical narratives, and the inspiration of his style was by Caravaggio. However, by the late 1650s, Vermeer began his work in creating genre subjects, and his personal interests began to become prominent, which was around the time Vermeer married his wife, Catharina Bolnus. Once involved with Catharina and her family, Vermeer began to witness the abusive and psychotic nature of her father, Rainier, and her brother, Willem. Rainier began abusing Catharina's mother around 1635, and the abuse lasted until Catharina and her mother moved to Delft in 1640, leaving Rainier and William behind. After Vermeer moved in with Catharina and her mother, Willem began visiting and staying for extended periods of time. Scholar J.M. Montius, in reference to Willem, stated that he too was abusive towards his mother and sister and served as a stand-in for his estranged father. During this period of abuse, Vermeer's style increased in sharpness and precision, and he further developed his ability to arrange compositions and execute the painting of natural light. While his works were similar to other Dutch painters during this time period, Vermeer's style had excelled substantially above other painters, and his renderings were created with slow and careful precision, using expensive pigments to create a wide array of hues in his palette. It is also suggested by scholars that Vermeer used the camera obscura to assist in the creation of his paintings to aid in capturing exquisite light and reflections. However, we will further discuss this issue in depth shortly because it attributes to the development and portrayal of his women. Vermeer's painting style is easily traceable due to his unparalleled ability to portray light, However, the objects and compositions portrayed in his paintings are just as recognizable. Through his interior genre paintings, Vermeer used the same corner of his studio in 10 of his paintings and used a female leading subject in 32 of his paintings. These similar recurring themes create a pattern and provide substantial evidence that Vermeer had an endearing and captivating interest in the lives of the female society. A portion of his interior genre paintings are directed towards the intimate moments that occurred behind closed doors and created an ideal portrayal of domesticity, since the daily activities he witnessed were less than ideal. An excellent example of Johannes Vermeer's painting style and characteristics is Young Woman with a Water Pitcher, created in 1662. The painting reflects an intimate scene that takes place in the interior of a typical Dutch household and incorporates the unique, skillful way Vermeer captured soft and natural light. A woman, clothed in middle to upper middle class dress and white veil, is positioned in the middle of the painting, holding one hand on the water pitcher and the other on a stained glass window to the left-hand side of the painting. The water pitcher is portrayed sitting in a basin on top of a table with a colorful, ornate Turkish rug. Beside the pitcher and water basin is a jewelry box, while behind the table a map is seen hanging on the wall. The map above the woman's head provides an image of the Netherlands and implies that this is a strong Dutch household. The pitcher and basin are usually symbols for purity, and the open window is a reference to life outside of the portrayed domestic scene. In this particular painting, the woman depicted in an intimate act of cleanliness and beautification is Katerina. While she appears to be content in her solitude, she is slightly gazing towards the open window with a soft smile. In terms of composition, it appears that Katerina is trapped between the chair to her left and the window to her right. Her body is positioned facing the window, and she is even touching the window pane with her right hand. The subtle body language created by Vermeer is an attempt at portraying Katerina's longing for the outside world. He portrays her in a comfortable manner, but also alludes to the fact that she has a longing to remove herself from her abusive domestic position. While Young Woman with a Water Pitcher alludes to the current world Katerina lived in and her longing to be free of the unhealthy family interactions, Vermeer's first interior genre painting set the precedent and mood for Young Woman holding a water pitcher and the next several paintings created by Vermeer. The paintings were all created within the time period of 2 years and during the time Willem was present in their home and recorded to be abusive. A Girl Asleep was one of the first of Vermeer's interior genre scenes and has been analyzed by scholars and compared to other paintings in order to decipher who the model sitting at the table is. However, I will make the claim that this is also a painting of Katerina. After an X-ray examination of this painting, it is shown that a man was present in the painting but removed before the painting was finished. Judging by the disheveled tablecloth and empty wine glass present on the table, whoever the man was in the beginning stages of the painting was more than likely seated in an empty chair and abruptly left the room. Many scholars believe the girl drank the wine and is passed out. However, in relation to the family history, I believe that Willem was the man removed from the painting and who drank the glass of wine before disarranging the tablecloth in his hasty exit. I would suggest Katerina was not drunk and passed out, but taking a moment of silence for herself in an instance of exasperated relief. While the man is not physically in the painting, his presence is visible by the tablecloth, disarranged chair, and by the long metal stick in the middle of the table, which Willem often threatened Katerina with during his violent outbursts. The fact that Willem has been removed from the painting and that the metal stick is still laying on the table is definitely a cause for Katerina to sit and relish in the relief of avoiding another abusive outburst from her brother. After A Girl Asleep was finished, Vermeer created A Girl Reading a Letter by an Open Window, which, by highlighting a woman alone in solitude, bears a resemblance to Young Woman with a Water Pitcher. The window is completely open, drawing the viewer's attention to the outside world, and the light from the window shines onto the woman, implying there is hope and fulfillment readily available to the young woman outside of her domestic interior. Positioned in the dark corner on the left-hand side of the painting, Vermeer once again refers to the daunting presence of Willem by including the same empty chair from A Girl Asleep. The chair has an ominous presence and appears to be a diabolical object, but the woman in the painting pays no attention to the aforementioned presence. She is completely focused on the letter she received and basking in the warm sun. The fruit lying on top of the Turkish rug is another subtle indication of the unnerving truth behind Vermeer's portrayal of his serene interior genre. Willem, when not being physically abusive, was also verbally and mentally abusive to his mother and Katerina by forcing them to eat alone in their rooms. Between the fruit and empty chair, Katerina is surrounded by implications of Willem's looming presence. However, the light pouring in from the window and illuminating Katerina's figure is Vermeer's attempt to add hope and tranquility to what is usually a fearful atmosphere. One aspect that makes Vermeer's paintings unique and easily identifiable is the use of the camera obscura to enhance the lighting and placement of the subject matter's reflections. In fact, X-ray evidence of this process, which includes the sketching of the image in oils underneath the paint, has been discovered on some of Vermeer's paintings. Out of the 36 paintings created by Vermeer, 10 of the paintings include the exact same dimensions, which further lead to the conclusion that Vermeer created 10 of these paintings in the same corner of his studio using the camera obscura. In an excerpt of Early Science and Medicine, Philip Steedman finds the viewpoint in which each 10 of these paintings were created, and all 10 paintings lead to a rectangle on the back wall opposite of the wall portrayed in the paintings. The rectangle provided on the back wall is almost exactly the same size as Vermeer's canvases. The use of the camera obscura is to create precise and exact paintings, which in reality is a difficult task for even the most skillful artist. While it makes the creation process easier and more predictable, I believe Vermeer used this method to create the ideal image on a canvas, since he rarely witnessed it in his own home. The women in his presence still took action in domestic rituals that allowed themselves to reflect. However, the level of serene beauty and indifferent expressions were not normal visuals one sees in an abusive home. According to many scholars involved in analyzing Vermeer's work, the majority of the evidence and discussions revolve around the exquisite execution of his painting style and the uniquely skillful way he portrays lighting disbursement over the composition. Little is discussed regarding Vermeer's personal life in reference to his creative process and painting motivation. Daily exposures tend to have effects on people's individual development and their outlook on life, so it stands to reason that a person's experiences would affect their creative process and their desire to express themselves through art. Vermeer's outlook on the female gender is highly regarded by the way he portrays them in a delicate manner and with an unavoidable admiration, and there is always a reason behind the person regards a specific subject. A better inclination of why Vermeer created the paintings he did, and why he portrayed the women in the specifically chosen activities, would be a contribution to the understanding of a highly regarded painter. To understand the creator, the chances of understanding the creation increases. Through a visual analysis of Vermeer's interior genre paintings, it is easy to understand that there is a clear and concise theme that flows through the majority of his paintings. The domesticity theme is prominent within over half of Vermeer's paintings, and the respect and adoration of the female gender is easily perceived throughout his paintings. Vermeer's encounters and dealings with his disturbed brother-in-law played a factor in the creation of his paintings, but not in a physical and obvious depiction. The scenes he portrayed were not truthful scenes found in his everyday life, but more of an idealistic and hopeful notion of the way his home life could be enjoyed and celebrated. The paintings Vermeer creates are unique and intimate experiences that he would have seen happen within his own home with his wife, daughters, or mother-in-law if the daunting presence of Rainier and Willem were not present.